All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Of Like Minds video podcast. Today, I have a super special guest in Mr. Kris Wagner, dancer from San Diego. Kris, you and I have such long ties with each other, and there's so much. You've had such an impact on the dance community here in San Diego, and we go way, 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 way back. And I
Way back.
way back. And I think just maybe if we can just maybe start to give a little context for the audience. I think you and I really met at a Rising Star Dance Center dance company. And
Hmm.
I remember taking classes with you, and there was classes where it was just you, me, and like I think maybe one other person. And I don't know if for those that are listening and that know Kris, or if you don't, he's an amazing dancer and creative, and has been dancing for a long time since he was literally a fetus. And so, Kris, if you can just one talk about like how you started in dance. You're one of those people that started so young and that's still killing the game right now. If you can just talk about how you got into dance and where that was and what that was like.
Yeah, so I started dancing. Well, first of all, thank you, by the way. Um, I've looked up to you forever, so like just like even talking like this is amazing. Um, but yeah, I grew up dancing. I started off because my sister started dancing.
Mhm.
She started at this place called Dance Machine in El Cajon.
Okay.
Um, Ran by like Tina and Gracia
Mm.
and Michelle and Gracia, the Ingracia family.
Mhm.
They were like all OG culture shock
Mhm.
people. Um, and I started dancing at like 2. I would just like go be in the studio watching her classes. And one day I just like started like going in there, trying to like dance with them. And then from there, I kind of like just started taking like classes here and there. It wasn't until I was like about 4 or 5 and like I had my first solo and like all that kind of stuff. Um, at age 5, I went to this place where you mentioned, Rising Star Dance Company, and that's where I got like a really big portion of my training, everywhere from like ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop, contemporary, acro, pretty much everything.
Mhm.
And that was like my home for a long time until they closed down. Um, but yeah, that's how I kind of got started into dance. Um,
There's so much there. And I think just even that arc and you kind of saying just all those styles that you had immerse yourself with at such a young age. And I
mhm,
don't know if you can maybe just maybe speak on any impactful teachers that you had growing up. I think, teaching is a skill that is so overlooked. And I think,
mhm.
we're definitely a product of really good teachers. And maybe if there's a few standouts, even in academia or if in dance that have really impacted you in your teaching style and your ability today?
Definitely. I would say dance wise, I would have to definitely thank Cheryl Swanstrom.
Mm.
Um, she
One more time. Sorry about that.
Okay. How far back?
Just everyone that's impacted you. You can just
Okay.
re-say it again. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. No, you're good. Okay, yeah. The first person I'd have to say would definitely be Cheryl Swanstrom.
Mhm.
She was the owner of Rising Star Dance Company, and she gave me the space to start my like training for real. She also helped my parents financially with giving me a scholarship to dance at the studio and allowed me to train and really like take advantage of all the classes at the time.
Mm.
um, she gave me like that undivided attention and like saw something in me at a young age to like
Mhm.
really just push me there.
Yeah.
I would also have to thank Miss Cassie and Miss Stacy Sofer.
Mhm.
Wow, I don't mean to say like Miss and Miss, but like it's just like that.
Yeah.
Um, uh, After Rising Star closed down, I like followed them throughout every studio they went to up
Mm.
until they started owning their own studio. And they were another two that really like just gave me all their attention and really made sure that they gave the best that they could to me and they made sure they didn't miss anything. Um, but also on top of that, it wasn't just dance that they really looked out on me on. They like looked out for me as a person.
Mm.
They would like just pick me up and take me to LA and go take classes and like
Wow.
just ask how I was doing and see what was going on at home or see what was going on at school, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's always like stuck really close to my heart. Um, I'd say those are some oh, another one. How could I forget? Sorry. Phillip Geniza. He was
Mm.
definitely a
Shout out
huge
Philip. Yep.
inspiration to me. Yes. I would say he was probably like my dad for a good majority of my life.
Yeah.
Um, I think I started dancing with Philip when I was about 5 or 6 until I was around like 8. And he really like took me in, took care of me. Like my parents weren't around and it was just like us and the boys. He made sure that I was like doing what I was supposed to be doing, not running
Yeah.
around, like being crazy. Yeah, definitely Philip too.
Oh man, and I think you just
Yeah.
kind of said it earlier, Chris, is these teachers not only impacted you in the studio, but I think even you as a person. I've that was one of my
Mhm.
favorite things, about you. I always just felt you were so genuine and unapologetically you. And I think that's unfortunately not as common as it should be, especially in the entertainment industry. And it's really refreshing to just
Mhm.
like know, like, when I see you, it's like I know that you're like truly genuine and real, and I can really just like trust you. And I've always felt that. And I think that, those teachers and those mentors have a lot to do with that and
Yeah.
that impact on you. And I don't know, there's just not enough that could be said about like having such good mentors and teachers, and you're like a huge product of that. Um,
Oh,
kind
thank
of,
you.
it's
I owe it to them.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, you're saying all these like incredible names. I'm just like, man, like it's the dance world is changing and evolving. And I think, in this
Hmm.
past year, we saw a lot of things really get unsurfaced. And I don't know, maybe like where your head is at now, having reacted to, all the kind of the dark side of things that have kind of happened. But in terms of
Hmm.
all the news that came out in 2020, and for those that are listening and tuning in, whether you are in the know or not, 2020 just did a lot for everyone. There was a lot of light being just shined everywhere, and we saw what a lot of things really were. And if you can maybe just talk about, Chris, like, being an artist and being a dancer and a choreographer and all these amazing things that you are, what it's been like for you during COVID in terms of your mental and approaching your career and like
Mm.
still creating today. Like how's it been like for you? Like, how have you been in that sense?
Yeah. Well, first of all, what you said, it was like a hard year. Like, both of us, I think we kind of felt it a little bit more than,
Yeah.
not more than
Yeah.
other people, but we had it happen really close to us. And
Yeah,
like,
she is.
oh, I was like, not kicks me off.
No, no, no. You're here. You're here. You're good.
Not you. Okay. Yeah, I'll go back. Wait, let me think about what I was saying.
Well, you're talking about,
Oh, okay,
it
okay,
hitting
yeah, yeah.
hit
Got you, got
close
you,
to
got you.
home.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, kind of like what you're saying. It was definitely a hard year. Um, I think for both of us, it kind of hit a little close to home, especially like seeing someone that we allowed in our childhood to
Yeah.
like really depend on and then see accusations come about, but also from so many other people that we trusted in this community.
Yeah.
But for me, I actually had to like take a step. Oh, am I frozen again?
No, you're good. Now
Oh,
you're
okay.
frozen. Oh, now
I
you're
actually
back.
had to.
We're gonna keep this part in. This is hilarious.
Okay. um, but like, I actually had to take a step back from
Mhm.
dance and social media, even.
Yeah.
Um, and just like even my friends, honestly,
Mhm.
I really like minimized who I talk to and like all of that just because I really felt I guess betrayed in a little way.
Mm.
So like I just really needed some space for me. It was like just a lot from coming from so many different places.
Yeah.
So for me, I just kind of took that little time for myself, also just while like trying to educate myself and make sure that I was doing the right things to make sure I was doing my part. Um, but I've really just been meditating a lot. I've been reading a
Mm.
lot. Um, I just moved recently, so when I moved, I like redid my whole room and like just picked out different things and like just made myself
Yes.
feel good about that.
So important.
Um,
So important.
doing a lot of self-care. And I think that's probably something as a dancer and as an entertainer that we don't really think about is important because we're always going to please everybody else.
Mm.
We want to make sure that we look good for the choreographer, for the audience and stuff like that. That when we think what is self-care, which is like going to take class, it's still not actually that because we're still trying to please everyone. So like actually taking a step back and um, just kind of putting my walls up for a little while and just
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It's like walls up but vacation at the same time.
No, I 100% agree with you. And it's, I think, if you didn't know or didn't think that mental health and wellness is a real thing, like 2020
Mhm.
really taught us like, hey, like isolation and mistrust and all these
Yeah,
things can like really take a toll on you. And like you said, it's hit home for you and I extremely hard. And it's forced us to do things that, yeah, you are pulling back and retracting a bit, but I'm happy to hear that you're doing these things that, we are both, luckily we're both so privileged that we have that time and we're able to do that, to be able
definitely.
to read and to be able to meditate and take however much time we need for ourselves, just to make sure
Hmm.
that we stay sane during these crazy, crazy times right now. Um,
Exactly.
it's hard, and I don't even know, like, to the extent maybe too, Chris, was there a pullback in terms of like even like things that I know that you do regularly? Was there a pullback in terms of taking class, in terms of creating, in terms of just dance in general? Like, were you still doing things for yourself, or was it just like you were just like didn't want anything to do with dance? Like, how did that affect that?
Uh, yeah. So I would say the from about like the beginning of quarantine until about May, I kind of just was doing what I needed to do to like survive. I'm pretty
Yep.
sure that's what we all did. So
Yep.
like I was still teaching Zoom classes and
Mm-hmm.
pretty much teaching privates that I could.
Yeah.
Um, in about May, I started to dance for myself a little bit.
Mm.
I was taking Cameron Lee's mentorship on his virtual mentorship for a few months,
Nice.
and it was great. I loved the training, but it wasn't what I needed at the time. Like I wasn't that for me when I like to go to class, I love feeding off of other people, like just the energy. It's not necessarily like a competitive thing or anything like that. I just really love
Yeah.
the energy off of other people. So I could not get into it.
Yeah.
And from there, I really just stopped. I've been teaching throughout quarantine because that I'm a full-time teacher and that's
Yeah.
my main source of income.
Yeah.
So I'd be teaching every day, but
Come on.
actually
Yeah.
dancing for myself, it's been rough. Like I think this whole
Mm.
quarantine, like in-person classes that we've been allowed to have, I think I've taken about two. So I'm really not like focused on my training, I guess, as much as I should be right now.
Yeah.
But if anything, I've really been like sessioning and freestyling at home a lot more. That's
Mm.
probably what like has kept me active and actually I guess more creative, honestly, than I have been in a while.
It's super important, and I'm happy that you're still finding ways to feed yourself, because like you had said, like you are giving and teaching so much. And maybe if you can just give a little insight into those that are tuning in and listening, the adjustment. I know a lot of people working from home, it could be good, it could be difficult, whatever it
Hmm.
may be, but in terms of from your perspective, And if you can just talk about, the pros and cons of I don't know if you've taken class on Zoom, but if you can just talk
Mhm.
about teaching on Zoom and how different like day and night that is from like what you and I love. Like you literally feed off of the energy, and you're like,
Right.
now it's like going from a screen, and then there's lag and all these
Oh.
variables that you can't even talk. If you can just give a little insight as to, your overall view of just like Zoom and teaching online, and like how that's kind of made you maybe feel differently about teaching.
Yeah, it has its ups and downs, and it has its good days and bad days. Um, I would say the energy is obviously way different.
Mm.
Um, the one thing I do like is that you can mute everybody. In class, you can't necessarily do that,
Yeah.
but physical energy is what I do miss the most. There's times where the lag is so bad where like I'm just sitting there for it to catch up, and then like I have to reteach it and stuff like that.
Mm.
I think the hardest part is trying to actually show what you're trying to do, because yeah, you can explain a million times what the move is, and you can try to show it a million different times facing
Yeah.
the mirror, turning the camera, and doing all these things, but actually like feeling a groove and like especially for beginners, it's a
Mm.
little hard. I'd also say just like the attention span, that is the hardest thing to work with, especially
Oh
kids. I teach a lot of
man.
kids, and
Oh gosh.
it it's crazy.
Oh.
I a lot of them will like turn their cameras off or just kind of like sit there and watch. I'm like, I can see that, right? Like, you're not getting away with it. I don't
Yeah,
know. So
yeah.
I've definitely become more lenient as a teacher on Zoom, because I hate to admit that, but it's
Mm.
like,
But I missed the last
oh
bit.
no, you're good. You're okay.
Well,
You're all good. You're all good.
well, I was gonna ask too, Chris, is just in my opinion, and you may agree or disagree, but I think kids, and for me specifically, it's like that middle school age range has been the most difficult. And so now you're coupling that with teaching online, and you're just
Mhm.
you teach a lot of kids in general. So if you can just, I mean, what adjustments have you had to make that you found successful, or maybe like, oh, this, I thought this would work, but this didn't work? Like, what are some of the good and the bad and the ugly in terms of your
Yeah.
adjustments and adapting to teaching during COVID?
Yeah. So, well, with Zoom, it's really hard to just, like I said, get the attention. So I think I realized that like talking to them and like teaching like I regularly would in class, like explaining moves and giving counts and stuff like that, isn't
Mm,
necessarily the most helpful for them,
mm,
because that's what when they're getting like even when you take class, you kind of get a little bored, I guess you would say, like if
mm.
something's kind of like getting repetitive. So,
Yeah.
especially because I feel on Zoom, I have to repeat it so much because
Yeah.
it's not being picked up as well. I think what I changed was actually just letting the music play. Have you ever taken the Sherman Schultz class? I
Yes,
like
of
to use him as an
course.
example.
Oh,
Okay.
love.
Right. I just like to use him as an example because that's how I
Yeah.
kind of learned how to do this. I just like play the music the whole class, and
Mm.
I'll teach it, I'll break it down, and then after we like get like a few 8 counts in, I'll turn the music off, kind of ask for any questions, go over
Yeah.
anything that was like new kind of language for them.
Yeah.
Um, and I've seen, or especially the age you were talking about, I've seen them up it a little bit better.
Mm.
They're just like I don't know, it just kind of gets them moving a little bit more, and like
Yeah.
they have to focus more because it's like, oh wait, he's not going to talk to me the whole class. I have to watch because I'm going to miss it. And then also like stepping away and not doing it with them a few times and watching them, like after you do that
Mm.
the like first 2 times, they're not going to be caught slipping again. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would say
yeah.
that was definitely like a huge shift that I've done recently.
No, that's great, and that's so awesome that you picked that up from Sherman's class, because that's definitely something that I've noticed too. Just having the music on,
Hmm.
and you kind of, without even having to say it, just
Oh,
playing it over and over. Oop. Oh, the light is off.
No, sorry, let me switch it. This
I'm
one,
like,
okay. I have
Kris
two
went
ring lights.
dark. You
I
have two what?
have two ring lights, and the one
Come
that's
on.
plugged in, the like cord is like flickery, but the one I'm about to plug in is like wobbly. So let's just
I love it. No. Oh,
I'm
Kris.
dead.
We're good?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just I think from Sherman's class, I think that's just so huge because you play the music over and over and over again, and it just becomes to a point where you're kind of numb to it, and you just kind of know the rhythm because it's just like it just kind of resonates and
Mhm.
marinates in you. And I think it's just super smart because it's like you're teaching them, and they're kind of learning it subconsciously, and it's just like one
Yeah,
less thing you have to like explain, and you can, like you said, just focus on the movement and like more ways to keep them engaged and not giving them those lumps
definitely.
time where they're like, oh, I can check out because Mr. Kris is like just talking right now. I think it's so smart.
Right, right.
So smart. So if you're a
Yeah.
teacher out there, I think these are some really, really key points that Kris is bringing up that can definitely aid and help your online teaching. Now, Kris,
Yeah.
I mentioned in the very beginning that you and I go way back, and I think one of the funniest things is I still remember to this day the first time that I think I saw you live, and I don't even know if you're gonna remember this, but for those that don't know, Kris and I, why I keep saying that Kris and I have a lot in common is because we were both essentially like kind of like the little kids that kind of started in the community, and we're both kind of from the same family. And I think I started on Formality, and Kris was on Flipside. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, yes.
And I remember seeing you perform at Flipside, and I think it was at one of those high school conferences that we used to go to. Like it was like
Mm.
those shows. So it was like at UCSD and SDSU. And
Okay,
I
yeah.
remember Flipside came, and I remember I was with SCPA at the time, and I had to have been in middle school, high school, maybe like ninth grade. And I remember seeing you on stage. And honestly, I'm going to be a super real moment right now. I remember feeling really, really jealous because oh, because I was still young, and I was like, there's another one. There's
Yeah.
already so, and like, it was so crazy because I just remember literally, but me too, though. Part of me was like, I was jealous, but I was also like cheering and like just so engaged. And like, it was so wild to see it from that view because I had experienced that being on stage and having the crowd and just like lighting up. And then like I
Mhm.
was on the other end just a few years later. I was like, who is this new kid? And it was just so wild to know that. And so, I mean, if you could even just talk about that dynamic, Kris, and I don't even know who the next youngest was to you on Flipside, but I mean, talking about growing up and you and I have a very different upbringing of dance. I think a lot of people, you typically grow up with people that are your age, and so you kind of just grow
Right.
with them, whereas with us it's like you and I had a bunch of older siblings. And if you can just talk about what it was like being such a young kid, dancing for a dance company, like a professional dance company, like as a baby.
Yeah. I was definitely a baby. I was probably about, I think, 5 when I joined Flipside. Um, and that's really funny that you brought that up, though, because I felt the same way that you felt. Do you know who Gabe de Guzman is?
Yes, I know. You can.
Okay, yeah. When he like started to get big on from like I think he was on like Formality at the time or just dancing with them,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, that was me. Like I felt that same exact, not like like a little bit of jealousy. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that feeling. Like that is so funny, but definitely, yeah, it was. I would say even a lot of people would think that like growing up around older people would force me to like be grown up early, and I'd say
Mm,
like in a way yes, but I think it also taught me a lot about just respect for dance in general and
mm,
just humans honestly.
mm.
um I think just seeing how caring everybody was to me, like
Yeah.
obviously I'm a kid, so like they're
Yeah.
gonna treat me a little bit different,
Hmm.
but just how respectful they were towards me. Like um people would change like the way they would talk or like
Yeah.
certain things like that just because I was so young being around
Yeah.
them. But like they were thoughtful of it, and I think that got lost in translation through the years. because like now I feel like it's a little bit harder for people to separate adults and kids, and like really making sure that there's a strong boundary to where like there's no crossover where it comes to even just things like people partying and stuff like that. Like I think that was really cool to actually see them like, okay, it's Kris's time to go home. He needs to, like, I was still like a kid, but I was a part of the team at the same time.
Yeah.
It was really weird though, like so I was on Flipside, and it's probably a little bit different than you because they were a little bit closer to my age.
Yeah,
Not
probably a
really.
little bit.
Like
Yeah.
they were like, I would say 14, 18, or like
But
some of them were like 19,
at
20.
that time, how old were you? You said 5?
I was like, yeah, 5 to like 8, I would say, or like around that time, right?
See, it's around the same because when I was on for Madi, I was like 7 and 8, and then the next youngest I always remember was Jason, and he was 16, so he was double my
Okay,
age.
so
So
yeah,
kind of
exactly.
similar. Yeah, it was a lot. It was big.
Yeah, no, it definitely big. But like they were definitely like my big brothers. Like I still even like Robbie Dell. He's like one that's really close to me.
Yep.
Elaine, that's like my I hold him really close to my heart. I actually came to
Regini? You're
dance.
talking about Elaine
Yes,
Regini?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
That's so crazy. He was on the, you know what? Shout out to Elaine because Elaine was on Formality with me and he was on Flipside with you. And like I remember he was one of the I think he might have been the last standing like from like my generation. So for him to connect, that's so crazy.
Yeah, no, Elaine, love him. I actually even came back in on Future Shock because of him. And you directed me.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
I'm just kidding. Oh my god! But yeah, you're talking about Elaine, just another older brother figure, and who's had an impact on you. What else were you saying about Elaine?
Oh, that was just like one of my big brothers that like I really looked up to. But yeah, it was crazy. But I definitely felt respected just like everyone else, but also still in my place. Like you're still that child. You're like, don't be acting grown or anything.
Yeah. Did it? I always say this story with people, and it's funny how you said that you didn't feel like you were growing up faster because of it. Like you were still like be able to be a kid. I actually did. I actually felt the complete opposite. I felt like it did forced me to grow up faster because I felt like stepping into that studio and being with a bunch of older people. I remember the first. This is such a weird story, but I remember the first day in rehearsal. Like for some reason, I was looking at the teacher and then I would look at the mirror. So I look at them directly and then I look at the mirror. And for some reason, I learned the whole piece opposite. So if they were doing this, then I was doing this. I don't know. And I remember just being like devastated because like I don't get this. And so I remember like that humbling experience just really kind of set the like, okay, I need to make sure like everyone is killing it and I need to make sure I'm not the weak link and holding it up. So it's very interesting that you talk about, you know, maybe you didn't feel that as much, where I was just like, I had a really tough experience that first rehearsal and I felt like I had to step up because I was like, man, everyone was so good and they were so much more experienced and so much better. I felt like I had to do anything and everything I could just to tread water and just to keep up. I don't know if maybe that's in terms of, I know that you kind of maybe found things more naturally, but maybe if you can talk about like how seeing older people maybe affected work ethic, or I know you talked about already, they were kind of being nice, but did just being surrounded by older people maybe help you mature in certain ways in terms of being a student or being an artist?
I mean, like I definitely grew up a lot quicker from being around them, but I was still able to be a kid, as in like the sense like I just had a lot of energy. So like they were able to like still let me be like, we would bring like TVs and play video games in like one of the studios because like we would just like be waiting for our turn for rehearsal, like stuff like that. Like they all taught me how to like skateboard and like stuff like that. Like
Cool.
It was just like, I don't know. I have a lot of memories from that. But yeah, so Wait, what was the question one more time?
No, just like I mean, just like I don't know if it's you kind of answered it already. I mean, saying that you did feel like you matured quicker and grew up
Oh,
quicker
okay.
because of it, but I don't know if there was anything specific in terms of like things that you learned from, just seeing how they carry themselves in class, or like what they would do to like improve as a dancer every single day, like whatever you saw,
Yeah.
like you observed.
Um, I because everyone was so much older, I like felt I was in competition with everybody. So like with everyone being older, it like kind of what you said, like I really wanted to just be as good as them and like
Mm,
try to like I respected them so much and wanted to be just like them that I would do anything that it took to like dance like them or to be in the same pieces as them or like pretty much anything. I would say one thing that I did take close to heart was stretching.
mm,
That's something like I think we don't really appreciate as much these days.
yeah.
And like we would take a half hour to stretch every rehearsal. And like I'm not saying that's because we were with older people, but like uh it was just something that I took from that experience. Like we really appreciated our bodies and like
Mm.
that we weren't damaging ourselves in any way. Um yeah, I would say stretching is like one of the huge things I really took away. And like proper ways to stretch.
That's
Like
huge.
not just like you just like there's so, it still bugs me to this day like seeing people stretch and like they're bent over but their hips are not like under themselves or
Come
like
on.
just little things like that. Oh my gosh, it bugs me.
I still remember, it was really nice just seeing you recently taking class outside. And I remember you kind of saying at the end, and you were talking about like, this is a jazz funk class. Like there's jazz in there, and like our lines need to be good. Like, and it was really cool to just, it's been a while since I've taken your class, and it was just really awesome to see um how just everything has come together, and just I'm like, man, he's a machine. And then and you were just not even just as a mover and a creative, but just even I think most importantly as a teacher, because that's all that we really have, right? We talk about, going
Mhm,
from I think even before me was Nico, and then to me, and then to you, and then to Gabe, and
mhm,
it's just going to keep going on in terms of just, like we have to keep that purity going. And it was just
mhm.
really just like, wow, like this is so amazing, like to see this. And you're still so young, which is like so crazy to me. And
Thank
that's
you.
another thing that you kind of alluded to earlier is
uh,
we did cross paths. This is so weird to say, but we did cross paths again like
mhm,
10 years ago. And I remember it was my senior year in high school. And I remember Angie was asking if Angie Bunch, for those that don't
mhm,
know, Angie Bunch is amazing. Do your research. But um, she had reached out, and I think at the time, Elaine, who we talked about earlier, Elaine and Jeremy Mascardo,
yeah,
were kind of in the cards to direct Future Shock. And Future Shock is I was a part of Future Shock, and you were eventually, and I was lucky to get onboarded there. And you were a part of that team. And I remember it was like some of like you literally my babies is like you and Kaylar and
yeah,
PJ Jimenez, and there's just so many people that are still dancing to this day, which is amazing. And just I think reconnecting with you there was just it was really like a like wow, like this is we've been dancing for so long, and we were still so young at the time, but then to like
yeah,
be reconnected in that space and be like there's no way that this is not just coincidental. Like there's the overlap of our beginnings and then coming back to Future Shock.
yeah.
I mean, if you can just talk about maybe some, I don't know, some memories from that time or whatever you recall, because eventually you would eventually come to directing Future Shock later
Yeah,
yourself. So maybe
yeah.
you can talk about being a dancer on the team and then coming full circle, and then you being a director like years down the line. If
Mhm,
you can talk about that
yeah.
full circle.
First of all, I kind of want to throw up from you saying it was almost 10 years ago. Like, that is so
Crazy.
crazy. And that's like, okay, wow. So yeah, I only came to Future Shock because not only became, but like the majority of the reason was because Elaine and you guys, or you were directors. I didn't really know too much about the Shock family.
Yeah.
I knew like about Culture Shock the studio. I knew
Yeah.
about Culture Shock the dance team, but I didn't really know about the junior teams too much because
Mhm.
I was on Flipside. Like
Yeah.
that was like I hadn't made like I that was just my spot. So
Yeah.
when I went to Future Shock, I was really nervous. I didn't know what to expect
Yeah.
because like what I heard was like they were the top team at the time. So like I was just
Yeah.
really or like they were like doing really good. So
Yeah.
um Future Shock was definitely a change for me.
Mhm.
It wasn't as um what's the word I'm looking for? Intense, I guess you would say,
Mhm.
as I what I was used to.
Yeah.
Like anywhere that I was. It definitely taught me like the family aspect, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Um I always had that like with on flip side, and I think that's pretty much the only team I was on before that. But like the studios I trained at before, which was like Rising Star and stuff,
Mhm.
we always had like that family atmosphere. But like Future Shock gives a different kind of um that kind of aroma.
Yeah.
Um it's it's a little, I don't know, it's just a little bit different. Like it's
Mhm.
true family. Like you meet people from all different parts of the world, and
Yeah.
they could say they're from Culture Shock, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know this for blah blah. Like you can have a whole conversation on
You
that. Like
know.
that's what I truly love about the Shock family and the organization. Um, I really didn't see myself like being on a team like that, or
Mhm.
like just on a team after Flipside, just because that that was like my home. So like
Yeah.
I was a little worried, a little nervous, but you guys made it feel like home. The training you guys gave us was insane. I loved every second of it.
Aw.
Elaine definitely brought that um workout, like intense workout that I was used
Yeah.
to. I remember like my first rehearsal, I was like, I hadn't like been on a team like that in a little while. So like I
Yeah.
kind of forgot what rehearsals were like. Anyways, I think when I like transitioned from being a dancer on Future Shock to actually like being a director, my
Mm.
main focus was to keep that family atmosphere.
Yeah.
Um, because that's what because I was directing with Kalar, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
and we both joined at the same time. She
Yeah.
continued and like stayed on Future Shock. She stayed on Future Shock and continued her journey on there throughout her whole youth dance team experience.
Mhm.
I kind of went other places and kind of like gained knowledge from other people, but we came back together and we really just made sure that we wanted to give everyone the experience that we had when we first started,
Mm.
because that's like when we felt was like the last time we really I don't know, it just kind of felt like home at that time. Like the whole community kind of shifted after like 2012,
Yeah.
2013 a little bit. So we wanted to just make sure that we could give what we knew um, and what we learned back to them, especially making sure that everyone felt a part of the team and a part of the family, because that's the goal with Culture Shock. Like
Mm.
you can come worst dancer and leave the worst dancer, but as long as you felt loved and um, just appreciated and liked being there and part of the family, that's what we care about the most. That's how
Yeah,
I
no.
felt, at least.
Absolutely.
Not
And
saying that you will be the worst dancer.
yeah, no, 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 no. That's so funny you say that though. But you talked about the shift in the dance community in 2012, and I feel like I noticed the one in 2008. A lot of things happened that year. There was obviously the financial crisis of our economy. But beyond that, it was, I mean, that was kind of the year that Jabba won ABDC. And I think there was a huge surge, I remember, of just people in our community, you know, San Diego being there's a lot of Filipinos here. And so there was a lot more of us getting like injected into like the dance, because like, oh, like this could really be something.
Oh yeah.
If you can, I'm not as familiar because at this time I was already at school, but I
Hmm.
don't know what like what shift in the community you were talking about in 2012. Was it more like a movement thing? Was it more like who was
I
good, or like
Yeah.
what were you talking about? If you can.
Yeah, I would definitely say it was a bit of like a movement thing.
Mm,
Um, I think um at the time we were calling it urban choreo.
mm,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
I think that like was when I'm just gonna call it choreography, but like
yes,
choreography was starting to be more influenced, I guess you would say, and
yeah,
like you would see it on YouTube videos and stuff like that.
yeah.
And I think just like the atmosphere of wanting to become great and good, or like that kind of focus,
Yeah.
instead of still trying to push for the community as a whole to be strong,
Mm,
changed a bit. Um, it was lacking like empathy almost. Like it was
mm,
just kind of one for each other. And that's totally fine because like you go
yeah.
to LA or the
Hmm.
industry and that's what you're gonna get.
Different. Yep.
But for me, that's not what San Diego has been or should be. We've
Yeah.
always been a place of love. Even like when I was on Flipside, I forget what team they were, but do you know Maddie Miller?
Yes.
They called him like Carrot Top, like because he had like
Yeah.
the or okay, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Oh
Like
my God, I haven't heard
our
that
two
term in a
teams,
while.
right? Like our two teams were like did not like each other or anything, but
Hmm.
like watching him, like I felt so much energy off of him that I like was so inspired. Like it was nothing like it was still all out of love. Like we just like I don't know. So I just felt like that wasn't there anymore,
Mm,
and it was very shifting on to like be cool and unique, stuff
mm,
like that, and not really about training everybody as a whole. And I think now we're kind of just barely getting back into that and
mm.
really like appreciating um, just the terminology and language from all styles. I think is a little bit more taken advantage of now.
Absolutely. And it's I think it's different when, because with you specifically, like I don't even know if you remember this, but like like I said earlier, that we've shared classes, technique classes together
Yeah.
when we were really young. And
Hmm.
I think it's different, because it's like, oh, like I remember you were side by side there with me. And it's different when I see, someone else maybe teaching, a term that, which is cool. Like, if you see we see a lot of things and we just teach it. You don't have to be like a
Hmm.
certified, but there's a point where it's different where, someone's incorporating, for example, like a rond de jambe. That's like pretty common. Like people will incorporate that. And then
Hmm.
someone who's trained like yourself, who then teaches it and then does it. And I think if you can just kind of speak on, I think what makes you so great is that you're so multifaceted, and you have extensive training in all these different styles, so your movement is just, you can put that hat on, and it just looks natural. And if you can just maybe talk about the importance of being, multidimensional, and
Hmm.
obviously talking about like how we're finally starting to come back into like the importance of like proper technique and foundation. If you can talk about like just how that, very well-rounded training has like gotten you to where you are, has allowed
Hmm.
you to do the amazing things that you've done. If you can just talk about the importance of that and how
Yeah.
it shouldn't be overlooked.
Yeah. I mean, like, since I started dancing, like I said, it was everything all at once. Like,
Yeah.
I never started in tap or in hip hop or in jazz. Like, it was all thrown to me at once. And I think if I didn't learn that way, I might have not been the dancer that I am today,
Mm,
because it's pretty easy to just find what you like and just do it.
yeah.
uh, but to actually then appreciate all styles of dance and understand that in not in order to do this you have to have this or anything like that, but in order to just feel as free as you can within each style, you have to really train in all those styles and feel that comfortability.
Yeah.
Somewhat, it really didn't even come like to me on how important it was until I kind of took at it as like an industry standpoint. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best, but Brian Freeman told me, or he just kind of always says, like, don't be like a one-dimensional dancer. Like, don't be able to only show up and book the hip hop job, or like, don't be able to just book this job. And at the time, I was so involved in the industry that like I took that to heart. So like I didn't really just stop at like hip hop, jazz, like, and then I started to want to get into like more in depth, like Fosse kind of movement. And then like I started to take house and crump and train, like not just take classes, but actually like try to train under people and learn from them.
Yes.
And I think that's also a difference, is you don't have to necessarily like just take classes to like learn from somebody. You can honestly, like, if they're willing to, you can hit somebody up and be like, I just want to like train with you, learn from you. Like, I think that was also like a huge like aspect in my training, especially becoming multi-dimensional. It just took me like asking people like, hey, can you like help me with this, or like I want to learn from you. And like that's just kind of how I got to where I am.
Amazing. I love that. Just so honest, and just, just coming from a genuine place. And it's kind of, you can really differentiate. You can tell when someone just really genuinely wants to learn. And that's, I think that's something that, for those that are tuning in is, you can really, really, if you really want something genuinely, I think people can really might throw you a bone and help you out, which is great. Kris, having so many different styles under your tool belt, is there one in particular that just like holds a special place in your heart, or whether it's like you enjoy dancing the most, or is there just a particular style that you just will always be like that's just special to me? Is there one in particular, if there is one?
I'd probably have to say contemporary. I used to say for a long time, like I love doing like hip hop styles and stuff like that, but I would definitely have to say contemporary. There's something that like it, you can really do whatever you want. Like it's just very freeing. Just all of it, like breathe, like the breathing in between, and using your lines, or using your technique, or using a storyline, or using just like playing around with so much. I'd say contemporary is probably my one that sticks close to me, even though I need to work on my technique a little bit.
I love that. It's always interesting to ask, a dancer, just if there's a particular one, because it's I think it just says a lot, and it's just really cool. Like that one in particular is like you said, like there is a little more freedom. That's probably because you have that range of motion to be able to dip into so many different things. So I love how that's the one that you choose.
Thank you.
And also kind of getting a little into Kris, you talking about, doing some industry stuff, and maybe if you can talk about some of the differences between San Diego and LA dancing and movement. And then maybe if we can just talk a little bit about, what those cattle calls are like, some jobs that you've enjoyed doing, experience, just can give us a little surface level of just touching all those bases. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Definitely a totally different vibe, even just like taking class.
Makeup, full dress, everything.
Right. Like walking into class in San Diego, like you just said, I could wear whatever I want. I usually have a hole in my sweats. Like I don't care what I look like. Walking into LA, if you don't care what you look like, that's great. But if you like trying to stand out, you definitely gonna put on an outfit or two. You're gonna be accessorized. You're gonna have matching shoes. Like it's gonna be set up. But like besides that, when I walk into like class in San Diego, I definitely feel more of that like community aspect that you definitely get when you go to LA. It's definitely a different vibe. I would say in LA, everyone's fighting for something. And that's
Yeah.
the only thing I do wish people from San Diego kind of took a little bit, is
Yes.
because people are so laid back and down here that it really takes away from their full potential and actually becoming great, because we don't really push ourselves out here to have anything to look up for except
Mm,
going to LA. So it's
yeah.
like we need to find something here, just even for ourselves. Like, we need to take class better. Like, we need to
Yeah.
train
Yeah.
harder, because when you go to LA, you're not going to be ready because you're not taking it serious here. So I do think that
Yeah.
taking it a little bit more serious is great. Um, but then also, like, you could go to LA and take a class where everyone's fooling around the whole time, but they're gonna get the choreo because they're professionals. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a little bit more different.
Yeah.
I would say though, class, um, and it has nothing to do with the, like, no offense here, but the teachers from LA definitely provide a lot of knowledge,
Mm,
um, especially if you take from the right people. That's, I should say that.
yes.
Not every single person is gonna be a great teacher, but
Of
I
course.
would say a lot of teachers in LA that have at least been around for a while, that have a good lengthy bio, um, they're going to teach you more than just moves. They're going to teach you about rhythm. They're going to teach you about where the piece comes from, where a
Mhm.
move comes from, where it's just going to be so much more than just class.
Absolutely.
No offense to San Diego teachers at all. I think we look at class from a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be said about any place, right? That there's going to
Yeah.
be, we have great resources here, and I think it's just you have to find those and what speaks to you. And I think something you said, Chris, really just like hit home for me because
Mm,
being away in LA for so long and then coming back to San Diego, I remember my biggest fear was having been in that environment for like 8 years of my life, and it was like really growing up was just like I was just a certain way because you are what your environment and who you're surrounded by with, right? So I
yeah.
was just used to just like, that's what I love about LA and miss about is that there's just like this hustle and this work mentality. Just like, I want, like you
Hmm.
said, there's a chase, you want something, you're working, actively working towards something. And even little things like when going to class in LA, like, bitch, like there's people are stretching and getting ready 20 minutes before. Whereas I've noticed in
Yeah.
San Diego, you have people trickling in 5-10 minutes late. And it's
Like,
just like, that's like a 30-minute difference. And there's just so much.
yeah.
And there's even little things like that was just like, whoa. And I'm, and obviously I am no exception to that. You getting back, that was a real big adjustment because I started being like, oh, like this is acceptable. And then like having to like I gotta get
Yeah.
back. Like this is not the way, if you're really gonna do this. And I think there's a healthy balance of being competitive to be the best you and then relaxing, but then just having fun, but enjoying it. I think there's a way to that we can balance the both. But I definitely feel that because I was worried about that. I was just like, man, like that's the one thing I was
Hmm.
worried about moving back home is just like losing that work and hustle mentality. And I found for me is just
Oh yeah.
I had to give myself projects and I had to make sure I stayed true to what I developed in LA. And I'm so glad that you said that because that's something that unless that you've experienced it, you may not know the difference
Hmm.
until, or unless you're just listening to this and you hear that and it's like, oh, it's an aha moment. But that's so
Oh
huge. I
yeah.
love that.
My every time my first class back to LA, my ass gets handed to me. Like, because like I just got comfortable with taking class here, and actually, like, you said something about like showing up 5 to 10 minutes late here, but like in order for me to feel that I'm getting the same training that I would in LA, sometimes I'll show up to class like 30 minutes late out here, because
Mm,
that's just the only way for
yeah.
me to feel like I'm getting that same push,
Yeah. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I
And it's no
mhm.
disrespect to like the teachers or choreographers here, but like that's just what I got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also different. I think you're very seasoned and it's just for you, you're attuned with yourself and you know exactly what you need. And you're like, hey, if I'm going to pay my good money for this, I need to make the most of this experience.
Mhm.
So I gotta do what I gotta do. And yeah, like
Right.
surface level doesn't look good, but like when you see the intention behind it, you're not just blatantly showing up late. You're
Right.
figuring out a way to challenge yourself, and that's the way that I see it. And hopefully for those that are tuning in, it's like, you're not just being disrespectful, but you're doing what you have to do to maximize your money and to get the most of that
Yeah.
experience. And that's so huge. Um, yeah, like LA's a special place. It really, and same with San
Hmm.
Diego. And I think it's just,
Oh yeah.
taking what we love from each and just trying to make it, we're just kind of like a culmination of that. And
Hmm.
you were talking about it, Christy. I don't know if you can maybe speak on just like even, beyond the class, but maybe training with people in LA or even cattle call auditions, what that's like. Cause
Ooh.
maybe if, if it's different, it's a different beast. I mean, like I know with
Oh
COVID,
yeah.
it's so different, but pre-COVID, I mean, it's just a different beast. If you can just give us a little light into cattle calls and
Oh
auditions and doing work out in LA and what that beast is like.
yeah. So ooh, I'm trying to think of what my first audition was. Okay, one of my first like big auditions, it was called Macy's Passport, and it was at
Hmm.
Debbie Allen's dance studio.
Yeah.
Dance Academy, something like, I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
Dance Academy. Um, and there was at least 1,000 people, kids, like not even people. These are just kids, and we're packed in this room, and everyone's trying to learn this one piece. We all have our numbers on. It's like squished like elbow to elbow, and it, it is a whole nightmare, like trying to learn the piece, trying to stretch, like truly, like you should be stretching in
Mhm.
line. First of all, whoa. I need to go back. The line is probably going to take you like an hour to get through. So like make sure you show up 2 hours before the audition,
Yeah.
like to make
There
sure
she is again.
you're
You're back. You're
frozen
back.
and you're frozen and your face is like, I went to go take a picture, but I did it. My
Oh my
phone's
god! And
there.
you were definitely like this. You were like,
I'm
oh
dead.
my god. Okay, so you're talking about
Uh,
coming 2 hours early, making sure you're stretching in line. What else?
yeah, stretch in line, like be stretched, have your headshot resume.
Mm,
But like there's no room. We learn the piece, that's cool and everything. They call you out by like groups of 15, and then like they do the whole like line you up thing.
yeah.
They do like the please stay, or like the thank you for coming. Please stay, thank you for coming.
Low
And
tap.
like, right. And honestly like the most horrifying thing. Yes, it's discreet, but like you still gotta walk and get your bag
Mm,
and then walk out. Like everyone knows. Like
yeah.
so definitely a wake up call. I got cut my first time. I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't even expect anything else. There were so many people there.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing. Um, but like most cattle calls are like that. And then it started to get to a point where like they're not gonna tell you in your ear anymore. They're just gonna call like the headshots that they want.
Hmm.
Like so like
Yeah.
there's gonna be 10 people in your group and they're gonna call one person and everyone else is gonna go grab their stuff and go home. Like and
Hmm.
that's just kind of how it is. Very cutthroat. And if you don't have the um I don't know, the backbone for it, it's
Mm,
definitely not for you. Like
yeah.
and you can't also go into it thinking like if I get cut, it's because I'm a bad dancer, or it's
Yes.
this, or it's that. Um, it could be, but a lot of the times
Oh
you're just
my
not what
god.
they're looking for. Like
Yeah.
you're, it sucks, but like they're looking for a certain body type or a certain hair type or a certain skin tone, or like,
So
and
true.
I think now it's a little bit more accepting, and
Yeah.
everyone is able, like everyone has a job, like and you anyone can walk in there if you have talent, you can book it. um
Hmm.
but back then it was definitely a little bit more like hard with
Yeah.
feeling like, especially as a kid, like getting
Yeah.
rejected like that.
Yeah.
And you definitely make sure it doesn't happen again. Like
Yeah.
you do everything you can,
Hmm.
because that's not a good feeling. Oh, sorry.
No, everything good?
Ah, you're good. Yeah, sorry, I was getting a phone call.
Okay, we'll be wrapping up soon. Don't worry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Well, I just want to say too, just a typecasting is a real thing. And I think, especially more prevalent, when we were kids. It's so weird to say that, but like it's,
Mhm.
it's kind of in a, as much as you and I know that you and I agree with this, as much as you and I like dislike social media, it is something that gives dancers and all creatives for that matter a real chance to make it in more ways than just a conventional. So the ways that,
Mhm.
dance that was 15 years ago, where it's like, hey, you're gonna take a bunch of classes, you're going to grow and train under people, you're gonna get really good, and then you're going to go on cattle calls and you're gonna book. That's how it is. And you're going to book from there, then you're going to network, and then
Mhm.
from there, then you're going to have a career, right? Whereas
Mhm.
now we're seeing that you can get big off of, exposure. Whether we've had some really close connections, like getting big off of YouTube and getting discovered on
Yeah.
YouTube, or getting discovered on Instagram, or getting clout on TikTok. Like it's in a way, it's like this dynamic of like hating it, but it's like it's allowed, it's given dance, just it's given so many people an opportunity to really have a career and get exposure that they may not have gotten 15 years ago. So
Mhm.
it's such a, I don't know, such a
No,
dynamic
for
thing.
real.
No, I don't know what your thoughts on that.
No, for real. I don't know. Like I was like 11 or 12 years old, and my mom drove me up an hour, or not an hour, like 3 hours just to get up to go to LA.
Yep.
And it was for like a Shake It Up audition.
Yep.
And Rosero stood us all in the line, two different lines. And he's like, if you're in the front line, you can go. And I was like, are you serious right now? Like, I didn't dance. I didn't do anything. Like, you said this in the email. Like, I'm not much shorter than
Triggering.
me. Let me dance real quick. But I was like
Yeah.
so heated and like, no, it was probably the worst thing. And that was I think probably the only time I've been typecasted like that, because of like, usually they'll let you dance or like give you an audition, but like that was the first time, especially for kids. Like adults, you get that all the time.
Yeah, but as a kid,
Kids,
that's
that doesn't that
ruthless.
that
That's
was
cold.
so hard. Yeah, that was
God.
devastating.
That just reminds me, a quick little aside here. I remember a story I have is I was auditioning for the Teen Choice Award or Kids Choice Awards
Uh-huh.
years ago,
Oh yeah.
and I was just going through a growth spurt. So I think I was in like seventh grade or something, or
Hmm.
yeah. And I remember we there was four of us, and we booked. I was like, oh,
Uh-huh.
this is awesome, this is amazing. And I remember like
Yeah.
a day later getting an email, and they said, um, because like they actually eliminated the two taller boys that booked. And of course, I've been short all my life until this point where I was
Yeah.
starting to grow, where
Yeah.
they cut, and it was just crazy because it was just like, and there's so many times that's happened where it's like you'll make it, and then there'll be just some BS, just like, well, like we just need two because the height doesn't really look. And I remember just being devastated because I told my family and I was so proud, and it was just like they don't
Yeah.
understand, like, oh no, the industry can take it away from you like that. And so that's just so wild that we have this, those
Yeah.
are just some gems of like how wild
Right.
the industry is.
No, can I say something on that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, People don't understand that just because you book the job doesn't mean that you have the job.
Mm,
Like
say it again. Yup.
there, I've been on multiple jobs where we've been in rehearsals, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, we're gonna cut people. Or I've been on a job where for a movie we were going to go film. The main actor came in, Ben Stiller. He goes, I have to cut everyone that's taller than me. We were 5 minutes before filming. He cuts everyone, like at least like 20 people that were taller than him,
Were you
and then
part
we
of
go to
that?
filming. Like, no, I was like a baby,
Okay.
so I was way
Oh
shorter
my
than him.
God,
But
but
like,
that's so
it
wild.
just happened. I was on a job, and also your attitude. Like,
Mm,
I this a job I did recently.
yeah.
Um, there is a girl, and she was not acting right with people in like departments
Oh.
that like wardrobe and stuff like that. Like,
Uh-oh.
and she got cut. Like,
Mhm.
you can't be acting wild.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think this is just obviously surface level, but I think what we're really trying to get at here for those that are tuning in is that, a lot of what we see in the entertainment industry, you just see people enjoying what they're doing in love. But I think the 3 hour drives to LA for a 2 minute audition that you may not even get a chance to even perform, like there is so much unsaid and unseen sacrifice, not only for
Mhm.
Kris and myself, but our families, our moms, our parents, our support systems. There's so much sacrifice that goes into it. And so that's why, when an artist or creative like demands such a high premium for what they're doing, like they're not just demanding for what they're giving you, they're also trying to get paid for the years and the sacrifice that has gone into this. And
Oh
so I
yeah.
just want to really echo that. And it's just it's it is wild. Like those stories that you shared with us, like, can you imagine like right before
Yeah.
filming, like cut?
Literally cut. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I literally could not believe it.
You're like, why am I so crazy? Why do I still want to do this?
Right. Like, oh my gosh.
It's so wild that what we put ourselves through, and it's just a true testament to we love this, and it's you and I, it's so wild that you and I are at this point, like we are truly veterans in this sense. I mean, there's some
Yeah.
people that I'm dancing with now, or what, when we were kind of back in session, like some people literally weren't even alive when I started. You know what I'm saying? And I know that's so weird because there's some people
Yeah.
on the company, like on Cookies I'm a part of, that were born in 2001, 2002, which is the year after I started dancing, which is so
Yeah.
wild to me. I'm just like, wow, I feel ancient. And the same is going to be
Wow.
for you because you started
Yeah.
at 2 years old. So I don't even know what year that is for you. What year is that for you? How old are you now? How young are you right now? If you can
Um,
share.
I guess I'm young. I'm 22. Um,
So 2000, 1999. When did you start
98.
dancing? 98, 90. Oh, no,
Yeah.
that's when you were born. When did you start
Oh yeah, yeah.
dancing?
Oh,
Do you
like
remember?
2000, like two, I would
Yeah,
started like
that's
going
so
in the studio.
Oh my God, that's so wild. It's just the age range, but oh my God, Kris, that is incredible.
Yeah.
Kris, we've we've only
We're
been able
old.
to we are old, but we are young at heart.
No, honestly, like everyone tells, like I complain all the time. I'm like, my body hurts so bad. Like I'm young, but like I'm telling
Yes.
you, like even people that are older than me, I'm like, trust me, like I
Mhm.
feel how you feel. And they're like, no, you don't. I'm like, I've been dancing at least 10 more years than you have.
That's
Like,
so
trust.
oh my I that's another thing why I love it. I'm so happy that you said that because that's so true. I think people trip out and like, dude, you're like in the prime of like your physical like well-being. I'm like, no, like you don't understand. Like and you're a little bit like you started a little bit before me. When I started dancing at 6, 7, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, that's literally over 20 years, and that's a lot of
Yeah.
wear and tear. And I don't think you get that because then when I get to your age, it's gonna be 30 years. So
Exactly. Like,
I'm so glad that you said that because that's so true. Like even at a young age, you can feel, all the wear and tear over the years,
yeah.
especially like us have delved into multiple styles, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
even more rigorous than the ones that you would think so, like ballet and
Oh my
contemporary
gosh. Yeah.
and house and all these kinds of things. So it is incredible. Kris, like I was saying, you've given us just a little snippet of your dance arc and your narrative and your story and just taking us through, the ins and outs of your biggest inspirations and, where you are now and kind of how you've evolved during COVID. And this wouldn't change anything, but
Mhm.
if you could say anything to your 13-year-old self, what would you say?
Ooh, where was I when I was 13? um, okay. Um, I would say it's okay to take a break.
Mm,
Um, like when I was 13, I was very on the go. Like I was also traveling a lot for a
mhm,
convention, like
yeah,
just trying to chase that life too.
mhm,
So that's another little thing I didn't really talk about, but like it was just a lot on me. And I think about a year or two later, I quit dancing
mm,
like for a while. And I think if I told myself back then to like take a break, um, or to like not have to be dancing every day for like as much as I did, I think would have saved me from falling out of love with dance for a while.
Mm. That is so
Yeah.
huge, Chris. And I think that that answer I couldn't hit home any more than now. I think just
Mhm.
COVID allowing us to, for those of us that are privileged enough to just, we have this time to like, we can take a break and like take a step back and be like,
Yeah.
well, we've been living life just kind of
Literally,
doing and not literally
yeah.
like personal well-being, like taking care of yourself, like rather than just trying to further your career. There's so many things that we haven't really had time to think about that we're just like kind of adjusting, like, wait, I haven't even been caring
Oh,
about this
yeah.
aspect of my life. And I think that's so huge. And I think that's so beautifully said, in how you said it. And, it's, this is just the start, Chris. I'm looking
Mhm.
forward to doing a follow-up with you and getting more into just,
Oh, yes.
other things. And I just wanted to kind of give, a little spotlight onto you for today. And I know there's so much. I mean, there's so much history
Yeah.
that we are literally just dancing around. I think there's definitely going to be more time to get into it more. But Chris, especially now in being a full-time teacher and artist and true educator, I can really back and say that when I talk about you. I just want to say thank you for giving us your time and your energy today. I think those are two things that are literally so invaluable. And, you really do hold a special place in my heart. And even as a kid, even though you pissed me the hell off when I first saw you, I knew that there was something about you. I was like, you know what? I feel like he's going to be in my life for a long time. To what extent, I don't know, but there's always going to be this mutual respect and admiration from afar. And it's really cool just coming full circle from dancing from the same places to directing you, to you directing the team that you were on, to then like
Yeah.
sharing this, and then even reconnecting from class like just
Right.
last week. It's been amazing. And I just want to say thank you. And I'm looking forward to the next time. And I hope you had a great time.
Thank you, Kevin. Oh my God, I had a great time. Well, first of all, let me just go back and redo this whole thing so you can cut it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. I had an amazing time. This is like honestly just like a conversation, and I felt
Yeah.
like it was really just great catching up with you. Um, like you said, like dancing last week. I don't know what it is, but like dancing with you or like any like people that came from that time, like
Yeah.
it just feels so like refreshing because
Yeah.
like you understand and like me and you we both have very similar training.
Yeah.
We pretty much had the same start
Yeah.
but and then like we both continue to like reach out and just do more than just what we were taught like at the
Yes.
very beginning. So dancing with you has always been just just really refreshing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just absolutely love it. This was amazing.
Mhm.
Um, I loved it. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for having me.
Yay.
I'm nervous still,
Oh no,
even though it's over.
no, I know. Well, I'm excited to have you back soon, Chris. We'll
Yes,
definitely be
please.
doing a
I would love
follow-up.
to.
We love you so much. And thank you guys for tuning into the Of Like Minds video podcast. Chris, we'll catch you later. Love ya.
Love y'all. Thank you.